Peter Chang here, and welcome to part 25 of our X-Factory SCX-60 CF RC car build. And pretty much we're nearing the end of our build, and at this point I'm going to go ahead and start building out the front shock tower. And pretty much this part of the build requires a little bit of patience, and also, just so you know, you could also substitute the piston cap as well. So, or I mean, not piston cap, but shock pistons. The red one is the Losi one. It seems to fit not as well. The white one is the Kyosho shock piston, and that fits a little bit better. So you may want to try experimenting around. It's just, for me, maybe I've gone and purchased the wrong shock piston because it seems a little too small. So in my build, I'm going to just stick with the white Kyosho shock pistons. Just going to show you the size difference. It's just a few millimeters of size difference, and essentially you could make the call. I'm just going to go ahead and just stick with the Kyosho ones. I just want to show you, I know that some racers do race with the Losi ones, but they just don't seem to fit as well. So if I start racing and performance seems to be a little bit adverse, I might just go back and switch it back to the Losi ones. So just so you're aware. Also, this part of the build does require a tremendous amount of patience. There's a lot of little parts in here. You need to read the instruction manuals. I would say read the instruction manual twice through, just so you get the general idea of what needs to go where. Also, just get a good night's sleep too. If you're trying to power your way through the build and you get too tired, you're not going to be able to put the parts in sequentially or in any kind of order. So just so that you're aware, I tried powering through once to get this whole thing built, but just so you're aware, it does get a little fatiguing and a little tiring, and there's a ton of like little parts that are so easy to lose when you're building out these shock pistons. So the way I'm going to start is I'm going to grab the E-clip, and I'm going to try to thread it onto the that shock piston there. And be careful with this step because the E-clip is very easy to lose, and I would highly recommend working on a magnetic deck, or if you don't have a magnetic deck, make sure you get a pit mat or a pit towel that you're working on, so in case the E-clip goes flying around, you will have something to catch it. You see me drop the E-clip a few times, embarrassingly enough, but thank God I had the magnetic deck, and that was able to stop me from losing the E-clip. So what you want to do with the E-clip is basically hook it into the shock piston tower there, and that's what I've done. And then all the other parts wind around this, so just becomes kind of crucial to get this part all set and done. And it is kind of a struggle to get that in there. So here's two things with these kind of precision parts. If a part is too hard to get on, you may want to just double check the manual to make sure that you're not installing the part the wrong way. So if you find that you're forcing it and the part just isn't fitting, you may very well be doing it incorrectly. Also, if the part it is fitting in but giving you a little tougher time, just take a step back, just relax a little bit, think about how else you could get the part on. You might want to try like a variety of different tools, or use a different tool set. Also, this might, if you're going to be building out like a lot of shocks, you may want to invest in a tool called the shock pliers. They help you grip the shocks without basically destroying them. If I was going to build out more of these Kyosho Big Bore Shocks, like say I did like 2 or 3 of these a year, I might very well invest in a shock tower type plier. However, since I've only built just a few of these each year, I'm just going to go ahead and stick with this setup. So when you're grabbing out these spacers, there's a couple different sizes of spacers. Just be sure to take your time, grab the right part. I try not to dump all the parts on the pit mat, just because they're hard to find. They also tend to be smaller parts as well. So just take your time, and you will have these all set up well. So hardest part I really feel is just getting this shock piston on there, and just using a variety of these tools. The hardest part for me is with the shock tower is just getting that E-clip not to come flying off as I'm installing it. So you get to see my process for this, warts and all. Just so you're aware that it is one of the more frustrating moments of the build, but once you get it working, it is so worth it. So I've determined to get the not to get the end part on, but maybe the middle part in there first, then do the end, and that might seem to help. So here I am trying to thread that in, and man, this is just downright frustrating. But believe me, it's going to be smoother sailing once I get this shock piston on here. In the end, I'm just using my hand to guide that E-clip on there, and it is really frustrating. But let's grab the pliers, try to get everything to line up, and try to just push that E-clip in there. Once the E-clip is in there, it's really tough to pull that E-clip out. So the tricky part is just getting that E-clip to sit in there nice and snug. And once you get that on there, your shock piston is going to function just super well. There we go. Just going to grab another tool set, just grab the longer forceps, and I'm just trying to balance that E-clip. I don't want to really necessarily rush through this part of the build. I'm just going to take more time with this part of it. So just double check. It's looking pretty good. I'm just going to try it inside the piston here. The E-clip seems to be fitting pretty well. It's not wiggling or jiggling too much. And the fit seems to be just about perfect. Awesome. Man, that took a little while to get the shock piston on there. But just double checking, and the alignment seems good. It's not too much give, not too much slop in there, and that's going to be a pretty good shock piston there. So one thing you could do is you could also grab some green slime, and you could lube everything up in there to keep everything well lubricated. Also to not have the, when you use green slime, the shock oil doesn't leak out. So there's going to be times when you would be using the green slime. Next step is we're going to grab the spruce, and what's interesting is that the Kyosho shock tower, or Kyosho shocks, could actually be used on 3 different models of Kyosho kits. So you're going to have a part for your short course truck. You're also going to have another part for a buggy. So depending on your needs, I would say save the spruce or save those parts. You could clip them, and if you're running like different models of truck, you could go back and reuse those parts from the spruce. Alright, we also have the aluminum milled component here, and pretty much we just screw this on. I'm just going to grab some green slime, and you can use just about any green slime for this. It doesn't really seem to matter. You could use green slime by Kyosho, you could use green slime by Losi. I just happen to have some team associated green slime around, so that's what I'm going to be using. And pretty much just checking fitment here, making sure that everything is going to be okay. Also the O-ring, I'm just gonna apply some green slime around the O-ring, and this is just done to have an extra layer of protection so that I have the shock oil stay in a little bit better. And I have seen racers skip this step. For some racers it doesn't seem to matter, but just so you're aware, even if you're building out with like say team associated shocks, I actually found like the factory team shocks, the first version, those tend to leak a lot on me. I'm really glad that team associated actually updated their shock set so that they don't leak. I have not had a Kyosho set leak on me either, so just so you're aware that that you make sure you use all those components. I'm just going to grab the O-ring and just trying not to lose the whole bag of O-rings and parts and spacers. So next step is to get all the spacers and the O-rings correct. So we're going to go ahead and just double check this. Make sure that all the parts are there. And also just checking fitment as I go. Hardest part is going to be just building out that first shock, just because you may not be familiar with the process, or you may not be familiar with the steps. But once you got the first shock done, the next few are going to be very easy to build out. So what I'm doing now is I'm just testing the fitment, making sure that everything is going to be where it should go, and just thinking everything through before I start building it out. There we go. And once again, I'm just kind of liberal with the green slime here. And just so you're aware, in case you do make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. It's just you're just building out RC toy cars, so take it easy. It's just I know for a lot of guys, building out the shocks is not the favorite part of an RC car build, and believe me, I could totally sympathize. Just so you're aware, it's just way too many parts, way too many small parts for the shock build. It's just too bad somebody can't create something easier for us to build out shocks, but it's all a process here. So I'm just checking in there, and I'm just adding in the other O-ring. So just checking fitment. And you just want to be careful with the O-rings, just because they are made out of rubber, and if you push them too much, they might just fly out in all the wrong directions, and you never find the O-ring again, basically. So this piston cap is looking pretty good here. This shock piston, I should say, is looking pretty decent. So just once again, I'm just building this out a little slower than normal so I could check out the build. Okay, let's go ahead and pull off the other part that we need from the spruce. And you know, just take your time, make sure that you are pulling off the correct part. The other mistake that you can make is if you're working too fast and too quickly, you might actually just grab the wrong part and then build it out incorrectly. The fitment may not be correct as you're building your shock together. All right. Let's go ahead and get this part in. That is looking good. So also, if you don't have a shock tower pliers, what you could do, like what I'm doing here, is I'm actually grabbing and bending out the paper that came with the shock tower, or not shock tower, but the Kyosho shocks, and I'm going to use this as a buffer for the pliers. So in this case, I need to actually get that plastic part at the end of the cap, but no easy way of adding it in. And then if I use my pliers right on the shock tower, I risk or the shock piston rod, I end up accidentally messing up the shock piston rod. So just so you're aware, if you wrap up the shock piston rod with cardboard, you're going to be okay. But it's you know, it's just an extra step that you need to do. So if you actually had the correct tool, you could bypass that step. And there we are. So that was the piece I cut off from the spruce, and it's at the end of this shock piston rod there. So go ahead and just screwed that in a little bit better. But just so you know, that's the other use for the cardboard. So just protection, really. You could actually thread it in without that cardboard, but then you risk damaging that shock tower rod. Another idea could be you could also use a plastic, wrap it around there if the basically if that was not fitting really well, the cardboard, if it was slipping too much. Now I'm going to grab the correct head here, and that's also going to be either top or bottom of my shock tower. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I clip this. There we are. And when you're clipping out things from the spruce, you may also have to just sand it down. So just so you're aware, and then sanding these things also adds to the build time. So just be a little patient. I just went to the hardware store and I still had a lot of these 220 to 300 grain sandpapers. I'd recommend like something a little finer, like 500 to 600, and you only find those types of sandpapers at a hobby shop. But if you're either one would work, but either way you probably need to do some sanding. Alright, let's grab another spacer here, and we're grabbing the O-ring. This is actually going to help us seal the shock tower here, and that actually goes above that spacer. So we might also need some green slime here, and the reason why I'm adding green slime there is to ensure that even though I have the O-ring, this is just going to help the O-ring from keeping the shock oil from spilling out. So let's go ahead and put some of this on, and I'm just using my fingers to spread it out. There we go, and just making sure that, and I don't want to really bend or invert this O-ring. I just want to make sure that the O-ring is fitting nice and snug and will do its job well. So once again, just take your time with this. We're working with a lot of small parts here. It does get a little frustrating. You just have to be a little patient. I'm kind of like the worst guy for this because I just really want to get out there and start racing. But you're gonna find that your patience is gonna wear off, pay off basically, because you're not gonna have a bunch of leaky shock towers as you start racing. So here we go. Let's go ahead and put that on there. So yeah, once we start racing, we won't have leaky shocks at all. Everything should be working out pretty good. All right, let's put this cap on. That's looking good. And then we're going to grab the locking cap, and this is the aluminum locking cap. We'll make sure we get this screwed on here. And wow, everything just kind of came apart there. Let's go ahead and put this on again here. And this is where being patient really helps out. So just take your time with this part, and let's grab the locking cap and get this back on here. So I'm just going to hold it steady so that I could actually get this on here. There we are. That's looking good. And I'm just using my hand to screw this in here. Just hand tightening it, making sure that's okay. You also do have a kind of like a throwaway tool that comes with this kit, so you could use that as well. Also, I'm just going to use my my screw here to pull that one out. There we go. Everything is looking better. Next step would be to grab your shock oil and to fill the shock piston with the shock oil here, and a couple of different ways of doing this. I've seen guys just kind of balance it out. I'm just going to balance out the shock here. I'm just going to pour the shock oil right in here, and they actually give you a guide in the instructions where they say like, hey, fill it up to a certain point in the line, just below the first thread. So that's what I'm trying to do. And then once that's done, you basically just take the piston cap and you just screw that on there. I would recommend, like, after you fill it with the shock oil, maybe just wait like 1 or 2 minutes for all the oil to settle. This way all the air bubbles just would kind of settle out. If you have any air bubbles, if you pour it and you don't see any air bubbling, or you don't have any air bubbles, you could probably just go ahead and just right install it on there. In this case, I didn't really let the shock sit. Just was so impatient and wanted to keep going, so I probably should have just let let it sit. The other thing is, as you're screwing this in, you're going to have like a lot of shock oil just kind of bleed out. So make sure that you work in an area where you could easily dispose of any excess shock oil coming out from the shock piston. So, and then also I just double checked the instructions. So I was hoping that there would be a less messy way of doing this. If you kind of want to defy convention, what you could do is turn it upside down, then install the shock oil on there, and then so you would actually install it in the reverse order. So that way you wouldn't get the shock oil overflowing and spilling out. I'm just kind of following instructions because they have it as kind of a tuning step where as you push it in and the excess shock oil would come spilling out, then you clean everything up and then you screw everything down nice and tight. So I'm just going to go ahead and follow the conventional parts of the build here, and just kind of following the convention of the build instructions. Even though I think it's more messy, it's still doable. So let's go ahead and do that. So pretty much, let's go ahead and try this again here. Wasn't happy with the some of that mess there, so I'm gonna just go ahead and try this again here. There we are, and try that again here. This time I'm just gonna let it sit for like a little bit. Grab that, kind of just screw it over so it's gonna be where it's at. And the only reason why I'm doing this again is that too much of the oil spilled out that time, and then I wasn't getting in like a good enough play or action on the shock piston. So this time around I'm just gonna be a little bit more careful. There we go. And I also did everything a little slower this time, so it is gonna work out just a tad better here. There we are. And I'm gonna go ahead and just hand tighten this down. And man, you can see how much that oil has come out and how messy it is. But it's slightly less oil than it was the first time I filled it. There we go. And it's just it's just this little trial and error process. If you don't get something right the first time, go ahead and just take your time, think about what went wrong, go back and then try it again. Just so you're aware, it's if you notice like little flaws as you're building out things, do go ahead and stop and make sure that you got something correct before you move on. Just because you're dealing with racing, if you intend to race, and then also just because if you fix problems earlier on as you spot them, they will be much easier to fix versus if you're racing and then try to compensate for a problem. But that action on that shock is actually looking really good. I'm pretty happy with that. Very cool. It's coming together definitely. So now we just need to just go ahead. We're going to need to thread another part on here. We're going to have to cut off a piece from the spruce, and then the only other part would be getting the spring back on here. So I'm just going to go ahead and just towel everything dry. I spilled shock oil just about everywhere here, so pretty much just toweling it off, and just letting everything dry for a second. And once we finish this process, we could go ahead and grab the one other shock tower piece that we need from the spruce, and we're pretty much set. And let's go ahead and grab that here. This is actually the tightener tool. So my shock tower, my shock oil level seems to be good enough, so I'm just going to go ahead and just tighten everything down. Here we go. And tighten it down the other part of the shock. I'm sorry, our other end of the shock. So we got that all in. There we are. That is looking good, and the action on the shock is looking really good too. And once again, I apologize for that being just slightly, ever so slightly out of the frame there, but just was so excited with building out the shock tower, or not shock tower, but shock piston in there. So that is looking really good, and push in, and then the shock actually pokes back out. Just really happy about that. So next step, we're going to go ahead and complete the rest of this build. We're going to just need one more part from the spruce, and also we need to thread the aluminum stop limiter up as well. So when pretty much we'll be all set. So I sanded down that part that I took down from the spruce. That actually becomes the spring limiter towards the bottom. So we'll be ready to install that. And then we need another part from the spruce, and that is going to be the top part of the shock, where it gets threaded to the shock tower. Alright, let's push this in, make sure that is going to be limiting the spring. And I'm just kind of pushing down the spring, just kind of gently, and try not to push the spring as much. But there we go. It's we have shock fluid, and our spring is set in there, and the shock is performing very well. And pretty much everything is looking very dialed actually, and I'm really happy about this part of the build. Even though it's was a little bit more trouble to build out, it is definitely worth it. Once again, take your time with this step. Everything will come out fine. Do not rush through this step, and if you don't get enough play on the shock, definitely refill it. Try it again. Thanks for watching, and remember, everything matters, and you're going to build an awesome shock. Thanks.